you might think, well, my business, I've got nothing to do with the military. I don't see how I can benefit from this. Well, you might be surprised if you're talking about a rapid increase of physical, buildings, infrastructure, recruitment. It actually touches upon potentially a lot of businesses. So even if you're in the service industry, you might bid for contracts to help the army recruit. You might help the army acquire land. If you supply the building trade, you might notice just a general increase in building orders if you're nearby a new facility being built. The best place to look is something like, I think it's tenders.co.uk. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Future Marketing UK. Thanks very much for joining me today. The topic, as always, is looking at the opportunities and threats that make up part of the SWOT analysis. So this is a focus on marketing, what's going to be happening particularly this year in 2025, and really giving you a heads up what to expect, and so you don't run around like a headless chicken when things actually happen. It gives you some sort of a heads up and mental preparational space for when things occur. So it's in the context of opportunities and threats for your business. Okay. Now, the subject this week is government spending. And you might think, well, the government's always spending, but what they spend, they reclaim in tax. Is this news? Is something changed? Well, yes, many things are changing. In fact, this world doesn't really know how to stay still. And there's some considerable opportunities coming up for your business in the next few sort of months and years. And I'm just going to go through them. Okay. Now, government spending can have a profound impact on businesses, depending on what business you're in, and whether your business can pivot to new channels of spending by the government. Spending by the government is either something that, if they stopped, there'd be a big public outcry, or something like a war or pandemic forces them to spend anyway. And we're in a very interesting time at the moment. So last week's episode, when I gave the heads up that today I'll be talking about government spending, there hadn't been any official change in the government's stance on defence spending. Within that week, with Keir Starmer's impending trip to see Trump, he managed to squeeze out some more money to raise defence spending from what it is now, which is about 2.3% of GDP, to 2.5% by 2027, and by 3% by 2030. Now, he's managed to do this by vastly reducing the government foreign aid budget. That's gone down from 0.75 to 0.3% now. And so that impact may affect some companies. I'm not sure how, because this foreign aid is normally either money sent directly to foreign countries to help them do something that's either in our interests or in the sort of climate change interests, or it's stuff that we're making here and then sending abroad. So unless it's been made here and being sent abroad, then foreign aid doesn't really do anything to support British businesses as such. It's kind of more soft power, which may have some sort of long-term benefits for UK businesses. But since last week, obviously Keir Starmer's announced this extra spending. Now, this might not sound very much, but it still is an increase of billions of pounds of money. And between you and me, it's not nearly enough of a rise in defence spending if the US is going to pull out its support for Ukraine entirely. Between us and France and Germany, we're going to need to really up our game, our defence spending, and very quickly, if we're to replace the military support that Ukraine gets. And it will involve a great deal of rapid and deep investment into things like surveillance. We're quite reliant on US spy satellites, that we'll need to get our own ones up there pretty soon. And other things that the US does very well, we're going to have to become experts in very quickly. And so this all requires a great deal of money. I fully suspect by the end of the year, the 2.5% defence spending will be by the end of this year, and the 3% defence spending currently touted for 2030 will be brought forward probably to next year, if we are to replace the US defence capabilities currently in operation in Ukraine. So what does this mean for UK businesses? Well, if billions of extra pounds are going to be spent in the UK, building factories, building drone production lines, building more accommodation units for the army, if they're going to increase the army, if they're going to increase the industrial defence complex by having more capacity to make missiles and bullets and everything else, then the stuff the governments have sold off over the years, they've sold off army barracks, they've sold off army training ground, they've mothballed many factories up and down the country. All these have now probably been built on or repurposed for other things, but it's still going to be the case that billions of pounds of new money will now be spent very quickly in the UK to sort of increase our production of weapons and logistics and everything else that you need if you're going to really sort of seriously improve your armed forces. Now, you might think, well, my business, I've got nothing to do with the military. I don't see how I can benefit from this. Well, you might be surprised if you're talking about a rapid increase of physical, buildings, infrastructure, recruitment. It actually touches upon potentially a lot of businesses. So even if you're in the service industry, you might bid for contracts to help the army recruit. You might help the army acquire land. If you supply the building trade, you might notice just a general increase in building orders if you're nearby a new facility being built. The best place to look is something like, I think it's tenders.co.uk or something like that. That allows you to look at government tenders coming out, and you can bid for them. Any British person with a British business can bid for UK government contracts, and if you need any help with that, then obviously get my details at the end of this video and talk to me. I can help with submissions and pre-calls and that sort of stuff to get you onto the radar for orders to do with military spending or indirect military spending. Okay, even if you do nothing, you might find that your sales increase on the back of increased government spending. After all, that money does have the effect of trickling down to smaller suppliers, to corner shops, to business chains, accommodation, hotels. If something's being constructed, the construction workers need to live somewhere. So you might find just doing nothing, your business increases in specific areas. So it's exciting times. Obviously, the threats are that we're not quick enough, that Ukraine gets taken over by the Russians, and because they thought, well, that's nice, easy, then they could attack other places, other countries, and even us. So that's the downside, but the upside for now is more government spending. And indeed, it may be that because the government feels that it can't raise taxes much more, that government borrowing increases. So in the short term, that's real extra money getting into the economy that would only have to be paid back at a later date. So certainly a short-term potential boom that would, if nothing else, be welcomed in a lackluster UK economy, even if it does have to be paid back in the years to come. And it may well be that's in our national interest to keep Ukraine, to maybe sort of help the Americans with some of these lucrative rare earth mining operations. Obviously, one of the UK's strongest industries is mining, and it's already having rapid growth over the last couple of years. So we are, mining experts. Again, mining operations involve a lot of people. They're big employers. They have a trickle down effect. So anything like winning lucrative contracts can also be a big business for UK businesses. Moving on from defence, you've got the NHS, always in our minds. Now, the NHS is receiving real substantial increases of spending above inflation. And you might be thinking, well, my business has nothing to do with the NHS. Again, you could pivot a little bit towards that. You look at the bids and the contracts coming out of the NHS. Could you supply them with services? Could you supply them with products? Even if your company doesn't currently supply the NHS, you might be surprised what a big buyer they are of services and goods. And it may be that there's an opportunity there for you if you were to look at some of the tenders coming out of the NHS. It's sustained spending. It's just going to go up and up and up. And again, even if you can't or unable to directly tap the extra spending, it does still have a trickle-down effect into local areas. So obviously, if a hospital has more staff and those staff have had big pay rises, or that hospital is supporting a local industry, local housing demand, then that all bodes well. If you run a little corner shop, or if you run a cleaning service in that area, then you'll benefit without having to lift a finger. It's just general increase of money going into that area. AI is another really interesting one. So the government is actually spending a lot of money on AI, both directly and indirectly. They're trying to sort of focus research efforts on AI. AI could be the knight in shining armour as far as the NHS is concerned. It could replace doctors and consultants, certainly take some of the pressure off them by helping them quickly analyse and accurately diagnose people, and eventually could replace most doctors and consultants altogether, really leaving nurses and robots to run the NHS. So that could have some positive things. But again, if your industry is anything to do with AI, you supply AI industries, or you're in a town or a city that has a big growing AI industry, then you're going to benefit either proactively by bidding for contracts or services to those companies, or indirectly just because there's more money being spent locally in those towns or cities. So these are all really important things. So AI is one of those odd ones that are getting a lot more money from the government, and just generally a whopping great deal of spend from private investors as well. So all good from a local business's point of view, whether you sell sandwiches or chairs or office equipment or software services or marketing services. It's a very good thing to be in, to bid for these sort of contracts. And again, keep your eyes on bidding sites like tenders.co.uk. I might not have that right, but just Google it. Just Google government tender website and find out. I don't know whether tenders cover all of government contracts or whether there's specific ones for the NHS or for AI. I don't know, but just a simple Google search will give you some idea to find out. And if I do find out, I'll add those links to this video. There's also a whole host of smaller local transport projects. Many of them haven't started yet, but they're still in the pipeline. So when the government decides to axe further parts of HS2, the bits that went up from Birmingham to Manchester or to Leeds, they promised basically to spend that money on more local transport projects. Now again, if you're in a town or a city that's having billions of pounds spent on it, and you've got all those workers who are well paid and looking for somewhere to live or somewhere to buy a sandwich or somewhere to have a drink in the evenings or whatever, your businesses may well benefit from that government spend, the trickle down effect. But again, you could also try to bid directly for contracts. A a big construction project, obviously way smaller than HS2, but still big by local standards, you can bid to provide services to these local ones. I mean, you get extra marks if you're a local company, because half these contracts worded in the tender is also a nod to trying to support local businesses and give recruitment opportunities to local people as a bid to sort of sweeten the deal for the disruption that a big project can cause. So if you're a local business and you want to supply sandwiches or cleaning services or anything else to these local construction businesses or local construction projects, then do try to proactively win some work. There is no cost to you to apply for these tenders. It doesn't cost anything other than if you want to hire somebody to help you write a pre-call or a tender, you can do that, but you don't have to. You could do your own one. There could be somebody in your organisation that can do it, somebody who's quite good with words, a wordsmith, or somebody who's already in sales, who's got a bit of slack in their time to bid for these contracts. Again, it doesn't cost you anything to bid them, and if you win it, then you've got a fixed term contract that's going to put you in good stead, as it's kind of away from the variables of just other business that you might get. So yeah, it really pays to keep following the news, see what's happening in your local area. When you hear of projects being touted, don't wait until maybe the first spade hits the ground, because by then the contracts would be signed and sealed. As soon as you hear about something, get onto the Google search for tenders and opportunities. And even if you don't feel like doing that, or you don't want to do that, again, there's some hope that your business might benefit indirectly anyway. So that's all I've really got to add. Government spending is good. It's on the rise. It could be for defence. It could be very much more to come. Watch this space. It's a very... I've just watched yesterday the Trump and Zelensky sort of fallout in the Oval Office. And although I'm expecting some back rowing on both sides to happen over the next few days and some burnt bridges to be made, be repaired, I think there's this constant nagging feeling in most European minds that America just wants to walk away from this Ukrainian war. They don't really care too much about it. And it is very much up to us Europeans if we are going to do something about it, or do we just sit back and accept that Ukraine's gone, but Putin will still be around and very much empowered and generally causing annoyance to loads of people in different ways. So that's it really for this episode. I hope you find it thought-provoking. If you like it, then obviously like the video. If you like these series of videos, then please subscribe. It's very important to subscribe if you want to be kept up to date with future marketing changes and updates, because it's every week it seems I've got something quite legitimately to talk about. I was worried when I first started this series that would there be enough changes to support a weekly YouTube update, but it seems so far that every week brings its own opportunities and threats to UK businesses. So I shall continue whilst there's rich, fertile subjects to go through. Next week is going to be a very, very special episode. I can now confirm that the neuro marketing episode is going to go ahead. I've actually got the recording scheduled in for Tuesday, and it's going to be very, very. It's going to be a great pleasure to welcome somebody I've known for a very long time, and she'll be on the show for release next week on Wednesday. And we're going to be talking about neuromarketing and really how you as a business owner can use the latest thinking, excuse the pun, about neuromarketing to boost your sales and improve conversion rates and even awareness rates as well. Right, thanks so much for listening and watching, and goodbye.